Hello students, we're going to do deer mouse fur color from the field to the beach. This is at learn.concord.org. The directions for logging in are in your lab folder. Press run by myself and we're going to go to activity 1. You'll see a screen that gives you choices. You want to go to from the field to the beach. Lesson 1.1 and work on the introduction. Have you ever seen a mouse in the wild? Mice are fascinating, curious little creatures that can be found all over the world. Perhaps you're lucky enough to see one running around. Let's explore a deer mouse in its natural habitat. Before watching the YouTube video clip below, think about what influences the fur color of a mouse and why. Think about how you would finish the following sentence. I think that the fur color of a mouse is influenced by, because, and write your answers in the space provided. So I just went in and copied this part and I started and pasted it right here, and you can start your answer that way. You can think about things like, why don't we have pink and orange and blue and green mice out there? Most of the mice and foxes and bears and wolves and animals that run around in the woods in Minnesota are not bright colors. And think about why that is. That will give you some hints about how to finish this sentence here. What's influencing the color of all of our animals in Minnesota? Here's a YouTube video of a deer mouse, and we can kind of watch that for a while. You don't have to watch the whole thing here. I'm going to rewind this a bit. So notice the colors of this environment here that the mouse is hanging out in, and notice the colors of the mouse. Deer mice are a species of mice that live in North America. Deer mice are unique because they have an amazing ability to live in many different environments. There are many types of subspecies of the deer mouse. A subspecies is a population within a species that forms its own group and takes on new characteristics. It says the first day of spring is 2 days away. This is deer mouse habitat. So this is kind of this time of year, maybe a little bit closer to April here in Minnesota. And this would be what the deer mouse is hanging out in. Check out the color of the trees. Check out the color of the leaves. Check out the color of the mouse's surroundings. These deer mouse subspecies can be found all across North America, from the East Coast to the West Coast, and from the Gulf of Mexico to the Arctic Circle. So this little mouse is very versatile. It can live a lot of places. On the map of North America to the right, the shaded areas show where deer mice live. Each color represents a different subspecies. So there are different habitats. There's sort of the East Coast habitat, the West Coast habitat, and has a slightly different breed of mouse, a subspecies. These mice are a little bit different than live here or here or here or here. And you can see in the pictures here, they have slightly different fur colors depending on where they live. The mice on the beach match the sand. The mice in the desert match the yellowish rocks. The mice who live in the woods match the kind of brownish, grayish tree bark and leaves. You can see how this little mouse matches in the rest of the environment here. It's just warming up in the sun here. Notice the mouse's behavior. Is it out in the middle of an open field going, I'm here, see me? Or is it kind of crouching down at the base of trees and in the grass and kind of hiding? This morning it's 42 degrees Fahrenheit and this mouse is warming up in the sun. So that brown fur might also help them get a little warm too, because If you've ever worn a black shirt out on a hot day, you know how darker colors heat up faster because they absorb the sun's radiation differently than cooler colors like white or light blue or light pink. Consider the text and map above. What do you think makes the mice able to live in all these different places? In your answer, include both characteristics and behaviors. Characteristics are what you see, like what the fur color is, or the size of their ears, or the length of their tail. Behaviors are what they do, like running and hiding, or standing in the open, or looking for food. So characteristics might include their fur color, their eye color, the size of their ears, the length of their tail, how much they eat, what they eat. Behaviors would include like what this little mouse is doing. Kind of looks like it's, I'm inferring, but it looks like it might be smelling just from the way it's wiggling its nose. An observation would be wiggling its nose. An inference, using that observation to make a guess, that's an inference, would be I might infer that it's trying to smell something. We could infer that it's trying to sniff the air to see if there are any predators nearby. We could infer or guess that it's trying to find some food, or maybe it's trying to find a mate. It's a spring day. A lot of organisms mate in the spring, so the babies can grow up in the summer when there's usually more food. Oh, there's our mouse. Okay, so you have some ideas about characteristics. That's what you can see, what you can observe, and behaviors, that's what mice do. So discuss with a partner, well, or yourself, and then record your answers below. How do you think the deer mice got these characteristics and behaviors? Why do you think they look the way they look? Why do you think they act the way they act? I'll just put those questions in here, so sort of refine the question. Why do they look the way they look? Why do they act the way they act? Those are not the answers, but those are questions for you to think about as you write your answer. Question number 4 is, what other questions do you have about the deer mice subspecies and what you watched in the video? Write down 2 or 3 questions in the space below. So one of my questions that I also put on the Jamboard is, what eats mice? And how does that affect their behavior? How do predators affect mice's behavior? I will not accept these as your answers. These are not the answer, but they're examples of the types of questions I'm looking for. So please write your own questions for number 4. I won't give you credit for copying mine. So let's look at the data here. It's time to look at some data. In 1996, Mark Bell and Michael Smith from Brigham Young University in Provo, Utah, set out to test if there was a relationship between the color of mice in a particular population and the environment in which the mice were found. They went to 9 different locations where deer mice live. It At each location, mice were collected either by digging them out of their burrows, this is a burrow here, and capturing them by hand or by live trapping near burrows. As at each burrow where mice were collected, 2 soil samples were also collected, one near the entrance of the burrow and one from inside. The scientists use a special tool to help them calibrate the brightness of the mouse fur and soil samples. A brief explanation of the brightness is shown below the image here. So low values of brightness near the bottom of the chart here represent darker materials and darker fur, where higher values here represent lighter colors of soil and lighter fur. The data collected on both the mouse fur and the soil are organized for you in the table below. Examine the data collected by scientists, answers the questions below. When Mark and Michael collected their data in 1996, they recorded data on the location of each deer mouse population and its subspecies. What additional data did they collect? So here's the location and the subspecies. Let's look at what else they collected. They collected the latitude and longitude. Latitude is how north or south of the equator a particular population is. In this case, in North America, it's north of the equator. The larger this number, the more north the population is. The longitude is the east or west direction. The number of mice is the number of mice trapped at that particular site. The fur brightness is using this scale up here, how dark or light their fur is. So the like 0 and 10 and 20 are very dark fur, and higher numbers are lighter fur. So in this case, Macon, Georgia has pretty light fur. Southern Georgia has pretty light fur here. Central Florida has relatively light fur. Or sorry, this is number of mice. Fur brightness here. Central Florida has pretty bright fur. It looks like Anastasia Island has one of the brightest furs. Santa Rosa has the very, very brightest fur. Here's the soil brightness. So the lightest here is Santa Rosa Island. Oh, and look, that's the lightest fur too. I wonder if there's a connection. We'll have to test that later to see if there's a connection between the surface soil brightness and the fur brightness. Here's the subsurface soil. This is what the subsurface soil in the burrow is. Like under the first layer of soil that we can see, when the mice dig down, what's the brightness of that soil that's inside their burrow, like from in here? And it's measured on the same scale as the surface soil and the fur brightness. So pick 2 of the variables that you think might influence mouse fur color in a particular population. State why you think it would be valuable to investigate these comparisons. So question 5 is asking for what kind of data they collected. So there's latitude, longitude, number of mice, fur brightness, surface soil brightness, subsurface soil brightness from within the den. And then which of these variables might be related? How is fur brightness related to anything else? Put what you think. And we'll continue with this investigation in another video.